everyone. I told you that was going to be a quick session. I promised, and I think Susie and I delivered. Anyway, next up in short succession now, we have a session looking at the whole area of OTTs, and moderating that is Mitch Cutmore. Mitch.
Hi, James. How are you? Well done on the fastest session ever.
Thank you. I think it was. I don't think anyone's going to ever beat me on that, or intentionally anyway.
Yeah.
Who knows what happens technologically or technically. But great to have you back with us here within the MEF community. You're with GTC. Could you say GTC? I love the name. What does it stand for?
So it stands for Global Telco Consult. So
that's what you do.
Exactly, yep. So we're a consultancy specialised in A2P messaging, and we work with people all across the value chain, from mobile operators to service providers, enterprises, whoever's working with messaging and would like to do it better.
Fantastic. And you are a member of the MEF community. So, and great having you with us. And thank you for stepping up to moderate and put this session together. And take it away. Thanks, Mitch.
Brilliant. Thank you. So to keep things moving, let's meet our speakers today. So first of all, we have Alex Nourouzi, Carrier Sales at Dotgo. Hi, Alex. Thank you for joining.
Hi, Mitch.
Then we have John Campbell, Product Director for Rich Messaging at Sinch.
Hi, all.
Hi, John. Rasa Šaltenė, Head of Sales Business Development at Link Mobility Group. Morning, Rasa.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
And Ramy Riad, Head of Future Messaging at Webex.
Hello.
Hi, Ramy. Great. So to kind of jump in and kick things off, I think it'd be great if we did a quick round just for everyone to introduce themselves, their role, their experience with not just OTTs, but perhaps also SMS to a certain extent. And shall we start with Alex?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, Mitch. Hi, everybody. Yeah, my name is Alex Nourouzi. I work for Dotgo. We're a provider of RCS and OTT solutions, I guess, a CPaaS provider, owned by Gupshop, which is one of the biggest business WhatsApp business API providers in the world. In terms of my personal experience, in terms of between the various different channels, it's been certainly more on RCS. I used to run the RCS program at Orange Group, and was also a colleague of yours at the MEF until relatively recently on the RCS program. So delighted to be on board.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alex. John, how about you?
Thanks, Mitch. John Campbell, based in Atlanta, working for Sinch, global CPaaS provider. I'm a product director at Sinch, looking after conversational messaging. So that's centered around our conversation API, which effectively is our front door to all the OTT channels that we offer globally, plus SMS, MMS, RCS, etc. I won't embarrass myself, but I've been in messaging for far too long, so have a lot of experience in the industry, both from a telco side plus CPaaS provider side.
Great. And Rasa?
Hello, everyone. My name is Rasa. I'm head of sales and business development at Link Mobility. Being a global CPaaS provider and working with more than 45,000 enterprises worldwide, lately we see a higher increase in a need of different OTT channel, not only SMS. So I'm very happy to share with you our experience.
And Ramy?
Hey, everybody. I'm Ramy Riad, and I head up our future messaging team within Webex. I've been working with all the OTT providers and a lot with you in the industry for some time now.
Great. So welcome to our speakers, and also welcome to you watching. So I have several questions to get us going, but as you're watching along with us, feel free to also leave your questions in the comment section, and we'll have some time for those at the end. But to get started, I thought maybe the best place to start would be actually to kind of break down a bit what we're talking about today. So we're talking about OT channels in general, but also perhaps how they compare. So perhaps at first glance, they might all look quite similar, but there are differences. So Ramy, can you perhaps start us off by talking about where those differences lie, at least in terms of business messaging?
Yeah, the OTT channels in general, they may have all the same look and feel in terms of features with cards, rich links, and quick replies, and we're seeing more and more of them show up in all the different channels. But each one of these channels brings in its own unique set of requirements and features in terms of how to launch. So if I look at Apple Messages for Business. It is a user-initiated channel. It does not rely on the phone number of the subscriber, but rather a unique ID. We've seen recently WhatsApp open up more of a notification type of use case where businesses are allowed to send notifications to customers to engage with them rather than just wait for the user-initiated conversation. So with each of these channels, we're going to see a different set of requirements. And we're also now seeing Instagram, Google Business Messages, and Apple Messages for Business all require live agent support. So if you're in a conversation on any of these channels, there has to be a path to reach out to a live agent to continue the conversation over there, which is great for the channels because then these help us define what use cases are most suitable for which channel. And we can get granular in saying if it's a customer care related use case or if it's a user initiated use case, then these are the set of channels that are suitable. If it's a one-time password use case, then maybe SMS is still the right channel to use that. But if it's a retail marketing campaign, maybe WhatsApp as a channel, maybe RCS is another channel depending on the market you're in. So it comes down to channel suitability based on the use case.
Great. Maybe Alex, what about you?
Yeah, I totally agree with Ramy there. I think that it very much depends on the use case and where the customers are and picking the right kind of channel for that customer. We worked a couple of years ago with MTN Nigeria, one of the biggest mobile operators in Africa, and they on a chat linking a chatbot into Google Business Messages, and essentially it all came around because the Nigerian government mandated kind of its citizens to create a link between their ID numbers and their MSICN. So MTN was swamped by its customers in terms of trying to get some assistance in creating that link between those two different numbers. They created a bot that they put onto the website, but they were looking for more of an innovative solution as well. So we worked with them and said, okay, a lot of people are using just Google search to try and find out how they can do this. So we put the bot on the end of that. So we had an ad on there, put a bot on there, and that drove. I think we had over 100,000 people use that particular bot in just a couple of months. Click-through rate of about 6%. The completion rate of over 80%. So customers are able to, with the bot, create that link between the two numbers, without any human intervention. And I guess the plus point was over 90% of people were engaged and stuff like that, and were actually wanted to find out a little bit more about their services and the operator. So I guess kind of the customer managed to solve their problems, and there was an upsell opportunity for the operator.
Yeah, and I suppose you mentioned operator there, but perhaps while we're with you, Alex, one of the things that's, I suppose, interesting about OTTs is that on the one hand, there's some of MNO's biggest customers for A2P SMS, yet at the same time, with these emerging solutions, they're also becoming some of their biggest competitors. With your experience on the operator side and also kind of with RCS, do you think MNOs will be able to kind of navigate this working relationship to, on the one hand, support OTT channels, but also perhaps compete with them?
Yeah, I think they need to do both. I mean, I think absolutely. I think that they need to continue on the SMS side, and they need to look at the richer channels. I think I missed Nick's latest numbers. We're sitting in the green room there, so I think that. But I think we're making $30 billion a year from SMS ATP. So absolutely, the market is still ripe for the operators to continue to look at the SMS and explore the opportunity with SMS. So the ubiquitous coverage of SMS is critical. 95% of businesses still don't use SMS. So I think there's a massive untapped opportunity there. But I think what we have seen is some operators increasing the prices of SMS, and that's causing not just OTTs who are using them for OTA, but also brands to look at different solutions here, and I think that's going to be counterproductive. I think I heard in some markets, even I think Malaysia, WhatsApp is now that kind of the default OTA kind of solution now rather than SMS. So certainly need to be a little bit guided on that. On the richer channels, I think we're seeing a lot of operators already moving into that space, particularly on the care use case. Might start with a simple kind of call deflection for people calling customer services, and then build it from there, adding more intents. At Dotgo, we just launched a WhatsApp top-up bot for an operator in Africa, and then we're looking to add some more kind of intents and features onto that. I think from the keynote speech from this morning, I think I noted, interestingly, Deutsche Telekom carrier, global carrier, we're talking about how their B2B team was really looking at CPaaS and the opportunities there, and to move from kind of a network provider to a partner for brands. So again, I think that kind of ticks the boxes. But certainly from an RCS point of view, I think, strong comparisons with SMS, or it's very strongly kind of complementary to SMS. I think the key use case there is the ATP direct marketing we're seeing. Probably, I'd say something like 90% of all RBM traffic today is internal direct marketing campaigns at the moment. Yeah. So we have a tool, a simple tool that allows operators to have a fantastic kind of bot type, customized bot experience to the whole customer base. Yeah. So 30% of our customers in Europe now have RCS, but also we can send a similar type of experience to those non-RCS customers through a personalized SMS, going on to a unique kind of landing page to give the whole kind of experience. So certainly strong synergies between the two, and we're seeing just that branded experience, the verified sender, the images, the buttons. We can go from 3 to 10 times better click-through rate compared with SMS.
Great. So, I mean, we've heard a lot in the past about this kind of friend or foe relationship, but I suppose what's clear from what you just said is that actually it's neither. These channels are complementary. They need to be kind of supported hand in hand and actually connected. So, I mean, Rasa, maybe if we pass to you and kind of looping back to some of what Ramy was saying, it kind of sounds like that actually these OT channels then are almost like the glue, kind of combining multiple customer interactions into one kind of streamlined journey. Maybe do you have any examples of kind of companies or brands that you've worked with where you kind of actually done that? So it's not just about one channel, but it's about actually connecting them in meaningful ways.
Absolutely. I'm happy to share the example, but before that, I wanted to mention that when it comes to the channels, here more is more. So we should let users to choose the most convenient channel to communicate. And one day it could be one, it could be another. From our experience, we worked with one luxury fashion brand, and we ran a campaign during the pandemic, inviting their customers to online show. And it was more than 500,000 messages sent worldwide, and users could opt in for a WhatsApp channel to continue communication with the brand. And it's very interesting what results showed, that 15% of the all subscribers which received the SMS opt in for WhatsApp as a primary channel to be contacted further. And of those 15%, over 80% actually participated in that online fashion show. So it really shows that, SMS is still a very important part of this ecosystem, because it's usually a main channel to reach everyone, because the campaign was sent worldwide, and the WhatsApp as a channel is not present yet in some other markets, or say it's not for every user to use it. But the engagement rate and the satisfaction of a customer was very, very high. So this a good example how use of different channels can increase overall experience and, of course, awareness of a brand and let customers engage better.
Great. John, what about you? Do you have any examples you might share?
Yeah, there's plenty of examples. I think many people argue that there isn't this cross-pollination between channels and handover, but there is definitely use cases. We see often use cases on a web form, web chat service to continuing on a given channel. We have examples of our contact center solutions where, especially where it's a customer service, customer care case where it's not like a minute, it's, I don't know, you're on to your broadband telecommunications type company to sort out issues, challenges, and it could turn into a 45-minute debate, but you've got stuff to do, right? So if you're on a web chat, we have good examples today, 2 or 3 customers where would you like to hand this over to WhatsApp, or would you like to hand this over to Messenger? And then while you're out and about, you can ad hoc go back to that conversation. Because I think all of us have had that painful experience where you're on the phone or on a chat and you feel like a ball in a chain sat to your desk or your phone because you're afraid to lose that agent or that person to solve your issue. So yeah, we have plenty of examples today. And
Ramy, what about you?
I'll use a personal example that I think we were talking about, Mitch, when I had a problem with my headphones. I'm not going to name the company, but I was trying to troubleshoot them. There was a problem with the button, and in my mind is like, how long is it going to take me to call that 800 number to wait for someone to answer me to try to resolve the problem? And I have 2 kids, so I was like, I need the perfect time where I can be on the phone for an hour, not worry about kids yelling, screaming. So I Googled their number and it came up. But I also noticed there's a chat message, chat button for GBM right next to the number. Clicked on it. It guided me through an automated tutorial on how to troubleshoot my headphones. And at the end of the troubleshooting, did they say it resolved the issue or not? I'm like, no, it did not. They're like, 1 minute. An agent came over, started chatting with me in the same channel. He had the full context of the conversation, knowing that I went through these troubleshooting steps. And he basically said, we're sorry, this is not the experience you should be having. Let us send you a brand new pair of headphones. They took my information, shipped it, end of conversation. And the survey that they sent at the end of it were 2 emojis, thumbs up or thumbs down. How would you rate this conversation? That was the end of the interaction without having to sit on the phone and talk, like to John's point earlier, tied to the phone on your ear, waiting for that agent to come in and you don't want to lose your line. And the whole interaction was done through the messaging channel without having to leave it.
Fantastic. That's the dream, right? That's how you want all these interactions to work. Alex, what about you?
No, I think I totally agree. I think that as I mentioned before, we're seeing a lot of the call deflection kind of case studies again. I think that people are perhaps not even aware of these bots. So what I personally like about these call deflections is they're calling the customer services. They have that option, press 1 if you want to have a message to message and interact with a customer. So not only do we, so it's an optimal time for customers who are on the call, like Ramy, to say, look, okay, I'm going to spend 1 hour on the call. I've got this option to get that bot, and then I can actually engage with the customer post call, and actually start to, it's kind of like a visualized IVR. You can see what's going on. You do it in your own time. With the kids running around, it's not a problem. And then you can also actually interact and potentially find out some other information, other services. So I think that's the key point. I totally agree. The mixing of the channels and let the customer choose. But here is a good example there where they perhaps didn't know about it. The discovery mechanism is there, and it's good from the operator point of view. We're reducing the number of calls to customer services, and we're moving to a channel that most people prefer. I think 3% of people like speaking to IVRs. So I think it's a no-brainer.
I think that's a lot. That's high.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, I've got a question. That's
okay. And John, when we kind of first spoke about this session, we kind of talked about, where this might go. And one of the things you kind of mentioned in passing was talking about the conversation designers involved in building these flows. And I just kind of wondered, if with the rate that CPaaS is growing, and actually the complexity involved in connecting these channels, the level of integration, the actual design and kind of mapping of what you're trying to achieve, it sounds like a lot of work, and it seems like kind of complex thinking work as well. So where does that talent and kind of come from? So does that talent need to kind of be built and developed on the CPaaS provider side, or do actually enterprises themselves also need to have kind of conversation savvy? Are they analysts? Where does this need to happen?
It's a good debate. I think the first thing I'd say is us as an industry have got it down to a fine art to get things in 160 characters or less, right? I think we've all worked on that magic. I think especially with the OTT channels and the two-way medium, and the fact that you can have almost limitless content, both character sets, images, and video, etc., does seem a bit daunting, and it does lend itself to a conversational medium, like you said. That conversation is often tied very closely to the voice, the tone of the given brand. So from our perspective, our guidance to customers, you don't just outsource that to anyone. That's your golden ticket for you as a company as to how you want your brand to be reflected. But those skill sets are lacking often inside the company, especially if they've never done messaging before. So we have a bank of conversational designers, which 10 years ago I never thought would be a job title, but we have quite a crew of just dedicated conversational designers that guide, give insights, hold workshops to help encourage the given brand or enterprise do it themselves and take ownership themselves. Yes, we could do it, but our first premise is always that the brand owns that medium and tone. The other thing I'd say, somewhat hypocritical to what I've just said, is that it is a journey, especially someone that has never done messaging, and leapfrogging all the way to a conversation with all these characters and pixel perfect artwork can be daunting. So we often just take baby steps. Just do button, quick reply orientated call to action, very simple to get started. It proves out the ROI, especially to the marketing and finance team, as to why invest in these channels. And it gets people hooked. I think it becomes like a drug, right? Once you see that, given the right tone and message in that quick reply and encouraging actions, we'd all love that experience ourselves as consumers. So take baby steps, invest in that skill set yourself is the guidance we give to our customers.
Sure. And maybe like kind of picking up on that idea. So we know obviously that SMS has been so strong because of its universality and also kind of its stickiness as a channel. Who is harder to convince then, in terms of, you talked about their kind of leap of faith, or the kind of teasing someone over to an exciting new channel? Is it harder to convince those enterprises who actually are familiar with messaging, but they're actually kind of very comfortable with SMS, and they kind of know their use cases, they know how to use it, they have their copy of 160 characters, defined and working? Or is it actually those companies who, Mobile Squared have said before, I think it's up to 90%, who actually have never sent a message, via kind of mobile channels? Who do you think is harder from your experience? Maybe we'll go back to you, John, to start this one.
Yeah, I don't think that's a straightforward answer. I think it's a mixed bag, dependent on the use case and the vertical that we're talking about, right? If you take finance, banking, services, etc., notoriously difficult to move in the sense of security audits and etc., data privacy. So I think those type of verticals are hooked on SMS. It's working. It meets regulatory compliance, etc. Then you have certain use cases and markets where, like you said, never done mobile messaging SMS, but to Ramy's point, there's a dominance and a presence of a given channel, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's Viber or Kakao and WeChat, whatever. But that the given dominance of that channel and consumer familiarity with it makes it easy for brands to jump straight into that given OTT channel. So it's very dependent on use case, vertical, and then you have this 50-50 debate of whether they've done any messaging or not before. So political answer to your question, no straightforward answer.
No. Rasa, what about you? Do you agree?
Actually, I would say that from sales perspective, it's very easy to convince enterprise to use different channels, because the need comes from them. Because the customers are going to the enterprise and insisting of opening new channels to interact with the brand, to have two-way conversation. Because I guess the era of one-way communication is in the end, and it's not what the user is expecting. So when it comes to the sales, it's I would say, rather easy. But the complexity starts when you need to prepare systems to be compatible with each other and to integrate those new channels. So maybe that's also, it explains why WhatsApp as one of the OTT is, or Viber is so popular right now, and others are not so widely spread, or let's say there is only one additional OTT channel available usually. Because at least from our experience, what we talk with enterprises, they are willing to try RCS. They're willing to try new other channels, but then we get together technical teams to talk. Problem starts because there is no easy way to integrate, and the SMS is traditionally one way, so it's easy, and the platforms were developed to support this channel. Now with a more complexity, with a two-way, with an interaction, a lot of more data, it comes quite difficult. And we as a CPaaS provider, we need to find a way how to help the enterprise to support those channels without asking them to make a lot of development in on their end. Because initially they are, I don't know, either the banks or other companies which SMS or communication is not their main, main business. So we need to solve this complexity, and I would say so far it's a bit a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And Alex, what about you? Which do you think is harder?
I think basically, again, exactly as John said. I mean, how long is a piece of string? You know, it depends on which country you're talking about, depends on which market, depends on personalities. I think it's so there's a lot of different areas. But just going back on what Rasa just said, I think the key point is the little steps. Make those little steps, and what is powerful with the richer channels that you can actually track what's going on. You can see where people are dropping off. You can actually measure it. And by having a relatively simple use case that doesn't need a huge amount of IT, and it might be an ATP campaign that's not integrated into the CRM, you know, that we can see the results, and then we can build the confidence that way. We can see the ROI, and then start to add on that. So I think that's where we're seeing a lot of stuff is through maybe a notification initially, it could be, transactional notification, and then build upon that and gradually, so we can't do everything straight away. So I think that's what we should do. Small little steps, show where we're making the money, how it's making an impact from a customer's point of view, they prefer it, and then take it from there.
Sure. So Ramy, so from what your fellow panelists have said so far, I think the clear message is to start simple. Do you have any experiences perhaps of helping an enterprise start simple and then kind of building out that user journey over time into something more elaborate?
Yeah, and I think the message I'd like to say is that, like for all the enterprises that are looking to start simple is the first thing. But the most important keyword here is start, because a lot of them are on the sidelines or on the fence, especially the ones that haven't introduced messaging. But for the larger enterprises that already have well-established programs, we approached a pharmacy customer of ours a long time ago, and they had a huge and a widely successful SMS program. And it was actually very scary to approach that customer to tell them, make a change to a successful SMS program. Because you don't want to mess it up. The last thing you want to be that vendor that messed up a successful program. And we asked them to work with us on introducing RCS to their messaging portfolio. And we've been working with them for 5 or 4 years on this, since they were, I think, the first to launch in North America with Google. And we finally took a look at the results, and the results were pretty impressive. They generated an uplift in opt-ins, 4 or 5%, whatever that number is. But what the number that really caught my attention was the uplift in their refill percentages. The channel itself produced a 10% uplift in refills. So that's a customer that has a prescription that's ready for a refill. Just tapping that refill button made a huge difference. But I also tell other enterprises that are thinking of starting, each of us as an aggregator or a service provider or a CPaaS provider, we have a path to take you, or a journey, like we all said earlier. by starting small. Start with taking your SMS, your 160 characters. Let's put it in a branded conversation where we just take the 160 characters, put it in a rich messaging container, whatever that channel may be, because it may be different in your market, right? And just put your logo, your verified check mark, and then move baby steps, right? Take it to that. Once that is up and running and standing, maybe we replace the 160 characters with a rich card and a button on it. So there's a path to go from 160 characters to a full-blown chatbot, where we have a chatbot designer or conversation designer helping build that. But there's 3 or 4 steps that we can take to get to that path, I think. And the key word here is start. Start small, start simple, start the journey, and it will give you the results at the end of the day.
Sure. So we've only got 5 minutes left. So if anyone in the audience has a question, now's the time to ask. Otherwise, I have 2 last points to share. So Ramy, you mentioned there kind of talking about the funnel and kind of drop-off options, etc. With the increased amount of data and analytics available to be able to track how successful each of these interactions are throughout the whole customer journey, how helpful or important is that to reiterating, like you said, from something small into something more successful?
Yeah, so the data is very powerful and very strong, but there's a lot of it. And it could be overwhelming for an enterprise to consume all that data back. So we try, I think all of us on this call, we try to help present that data in a way that is easy to digest from an enterprise perspective, to look at a conversation and say, I have a problem here. My customers are dropping off in this area. One example, and to reiterate, is we launched with the UK operator the pre-order for Samsung devices, and we had a rich card that had a buy now. Nobody clicked on it, because everybody was so scared that they hit the buy now and suddenly the phone was charged to their account. When we swapped it with more information, at the end of the day, that 5% that got this RCS message generated around 20% of total pre-order for that device. So the words matter. You may think that this is the right message, like you want the users to buy now, attract their attention, but it could be scary because they don't want to bill at the end of the day reflected. So reiteration is very important, because you're going to learn what your customers are accepting and how they're behaving to the messaging, and adapt your conversation from there.
Great. And then maybe also just kind of more generally, so security. So we're hearing in the session just beforehand about security, and it kind of runs through everything we do in the digital landscape. But how important is security to the current success of the OTT channels as they're growing? And also, how important do you think it will be for them to kind of carve out their space in the long term? So maybe John.
I think security is definitely becoming more of a factor in a buying decision. Network operators and us as players in the ecosystem are guardians of a very prized real estate, that is trusted by many of us as our native inbox. I think especially customers that have never done mobile messaging before and taking the leap into that, there are certain countries, regions where spam phishing has been slightly out of control, and that makes it much harder for us to convince customers to embrace messaging as a whole. And we see quite a few of those, especially in those given regions where phishing and spam has taken hold, to just leapfrog SMS and go straight into an OTT, mainly because of the brand verification process, the templatized process of getting content approved, much control. Now, that's not saying that the OTT channels are completely clean. There are definitely examples of actors trying to be bad and doing P2P type stuff. But on the whole, because of the newness of it and the maturity of it, I think it's a bit of a cleaner channel compared to what the enterprises think in those given regions. So it's definitely become a factor, especially just for even notifications, one-way OTP type traffic.
Great. So I think we've just about got time for a final word from everyone. So maybe Rasa, how would you summarize your message for people who are listening?
I would say that every communication matters, and brands shouldn't be afraid of using different channels. And we, as a CPaaS provider, should encourage and help them to make it as simple as possible, and just give the very nice feedback from their customers by using different channels.
And Alex?
Yeah, I mean, our customers are using these channels, these richer channels. I mean, we need to be where our customers are. At Dotgo, we have a CPaaS platform with 30 channels, so really we can pick that channel according to the audience and the use case. So absolutely, let's get going. Let's start.
And John, what about you?
I think the operative word that just repeated by many was start, right? Just start. It's amazing to me when I come across a brand. As a product guy, I still like going into customer pitches. And it's still surprising the amount that I go into that have never done mobile messaging. So my message is just start. I don't care which channel, but just start.
And Ramy?
I think it's the same message. It work with the vendor that you have a trusted relationship with. They'll guide you through the process. They'll pick the right channel based on the use case, the region, and at the end, it will yield the results.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you to all of you for accepting our invitation today to be part of this panel. Thank you for sharing all of your insight. I think you've all hopefully got that message loud and clear. Get started and start simple. I think that's a really clear takeaway for today. And enjoy the rest of the event. So thank you. I'll hand back over to James.
Thanks.